The Allen Line Company appreciates all of the dedicated carriers it takes to move loads across the U.S. Stay safe.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
Thanks for joining us. Scott here, keeping the seat warm for Mark Reddick while he's away. We'll spend some time today talking about predatory towing. You know how bad the problem is out there, and while many state lawmakers do not, they're starting to get an idea. We've got new legislation in a number of states dedicated to protecting professional truck drivers from those sky-high towing bills that come out of nowhere. We'll tackle the issue from two fronts by speaking with Kentucky State Senator Jimmy Higdon, who's sponsoring a bill on predatory towing, and then by talking with OOIDA Director of State Government Affairs Doug Morris, who's keeping track of states taking action. On today's show as well, we'll also speak with Louis Pugh, OOIDA's Executive Vice President, about what happened at the Missouri Commercial Motor Vehicle Strategic Workshop, and also with Alex Miller, the President and CEO of the Florida Trucking Association, for a status update on their Share the Road program. So, lots to get to. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Scott. President Biden was in Baltimore recently to survey the damage done by the container ship that caused the Francis Scott Key Bridge to collapse on March 26th. During his visit, Biden spoke about the importance of getting ships moving through the port.
First is our priority to reopen the port. This is one of the nation's largest shipping hubs. And it's the top port in America, both in importing and exporting of cars and light trucks. The number one. Simply put, the impact here has a significant impact everywhere, up and down the coast and around the country. Thousands of tons of mangled steel remain lodged in the water, blocking ships from moving in and out of the harbor. I've directed the Coast Guard, the Navy, and the Army Corps of Engineers, who are, by the way, the finest engineers in the world, and the state officials to work together to help remove this steel as quickly as possible and as safely as possible. So far, our team has been able to clear 2 small channels for essential ships, helping clear the wreckage. And yesterday, the Army Corps announced that by the end of April, they'll be able to open the 3rd channel for some commercial traffic, including car carriers. And by the end of May, we'll open the full channel,
Biden announced that the federal government will provide more than $8 million in grant funds to make infrastructure improvements at TPA's terminal on Sparrows Point at the Port of Baltimore. This terminal is located outside the area affected and continues to move cargo. Biden also spoke about rebuilding the bridge.
My administration is committed, absolutely committed, to ensuring that the parties responsible for this tragedy pay to repair the damage and be held accountable to the fullest extent the law will allow. But I also want to be clear. We will support Maryland and Baltimore every step of the way to help you rebuild and maintain all the business and commerce that's here now. As the governor can tell you, within hours of the Maryland request, we approved $60 million in emergency federal funding. I fully intend, as the governor knows, to have the federal government cover the cost of rebuilding this entire bridge, all of it.
Biden said he's calling on Congress to authorize this effort as soon as possible. There was a significant decrease in the number of positive drug tests for last year, according to the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration's Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse. According to the December 2023 report, the clearinghouse yielded 61,443 positive tests in 2023, as opposed to 68,639 in 2022, a difference of 7,196. Although fewer positive drug tests is a good thing, it's also worth noting that there are some flaws associated with comparing these numbers from year to year. While the clearinghouse releases the number of positive tests, it does not provide the number of tests that were conducted. It should also be noted that the initial numbers are preliminary. In past years, the total number of positive tests decreased after some were determined to be inaccurate reporting or false positives. Good news for truckers on the job market. Trucking jobs surged in the month of March. According to the latest numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, more than 5,000 trucking jobs were added to the economy in March. This marks the largest increase since September, when jobs went up by 8,000, and the second largest increase since last June, when numbers went up by 5,600. More severe punishment is now in place in British Columbia for bridge strikes. Fines of up to $100,000 and imprisonment of up to 18 months in jail are now in effect in the province. The changes to the Commercial Vehicle Act happened on March 14th, the same day they became effective. The courts are now able to impose fines of up to $100,000 to drivers of commercial vehicles involved in infrastructure crashes, or a maximum imprisonment of up to 18 months upon conviction, or both. According to the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure, following a crash, an investigation by an enforcement officer will determine whether a violation ticket will be issued or charges will be recommended to Crown Counsel. Certain 2025 Peterbilt 536, 548, 567, 579, and Kenworth T280, T380, T480, T680, T880, and W990 vehicles are being recalled. PACCAR Incorporated says the steering gear sector shaft may have been improperly heat-treated, which can cause the gear teeth to crack or fracture. Dealers will inspect the serial numbers and replace the steering gears as necessary, free of charge. Owner notification letters are expected to be mailed on May 26th. Distracted driving numbers are down since last year, according to Cambridge Mobile Telematics. It recently released its annual report on distracted driving and road safety and found that distracted driving fell by 4.5% in 2023, the first decrease since 2020. The telematics service provider said while this reduction is an improvement, distracted driving is still dangerously high in the country. According to the release, consent-driven usage-based insurance programs, hands-free legislation, and increased media coverage are thought to have helped reduce distracted driving. The Ontario Provincial Police arrested and charged two 14-year-olds for throwing a rock at a passing commercial motor vehicle recently. The incident happened on March 30th and caused damage to the windshield of the truck. The two from Smooth Rock Falls were charged with mischief. OPP posted that although this may have seemed like a harmless prank, it could have easily escalated into a life-threatening situation, not just for the drivers and passengers, but also for the perpetrators themselves. And finally, the world's oldest living man has been named by Guinness World Records. UPI reports that a 111-year-old resident at a British retirement home has been dubbed the world's oldest living man. John Alfred Tinniswood of England attributes his longevity to pure luck. The article states that the man born in August of 1912 still gets out of bed by himself, manages his own finances, and listens to the radio each day to keep up with the news. A woman in Spain holds the title of the world's oldest living woman at 117 years old. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. A reminder, if you want to make sure your elected officials in Washington, D.C. understand the problems you and other truck drivers are facing out there, you can find a one-stop shop for doing that at the newly redesigned fightingfortruckers.com website. Go have a look for yourself at fightingfortruckers.com. Marty Ellis and the Spirit of the American Trucker are calling the Lone Star State home for a few days to start the week. They're at the TA in Hillsboro through Wednesday. That's off Interstate 35 at exit 370. So stop by, have a chat with Marty, and join OOIDA at a discount. Coming up next, we'll welcome in OOIDA Executive VP Louis Pugh for a talk about the recent Missouri Commercial Motor Vehicle Strategic Workshop, where state and federal regulators came together with stakeholders in the trucking industry for a number of conversations and debates. Louis was there, and he's going to take Ashley and the rest of us behind the scenes for a recap on what was talked about and what might come of those discussions. Then after that, we'll talk with the Kentucky State Senator about his predatory towing bill, the leader of the Florida Trucking Association about their Share the Road campaign, and Doug Morris of OOIDA to sharpen up our focus once more today on predatory towing. So stick around. Landline Now is back right after this.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Penske owns and operates some of the best-maintained vehicles on the planet. Our used trucks come with a 5-year maintenance report and pre-sale inspection. So if you're in the market for a top-quality pre-owned truck, look no further. Search our inventory today at PenskeUsedTrucks.com.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2024 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Landline Now, welcome back. Louis Pugh joins me now. Louis, thanks for coming in.
Hey, it's always a pleasure.
Now, you recently attended the Missouri Commercial Motor Vehicle Strategic Workshop that was held in Jefferson City. Tell me more about that event and what it was about.
Yes, I did attend it, along with some other staff here at OIDA. We were invited to come by MoDOT. I think it's very interesting. The world seems to be changing somewhat, and MoDOT and other state DOTs and state agencies have really started to take an interest in trucking and what trucking has to say. They finally realized, I guess, that there's trucks out there on the highway, and that maybe it'd be good to hear from them and how to communicate with them and how to make things better with them. Just maybe. So that's kind of what this was. This was a 2-day deal in Jeff City. It was very interesting. FMCSA was there. We were there. Missouri Trucking Association was there. The Missouri Dump Truckers were there. Missouri DOT, St. Louis DOT, Kansas City DOT. As far as enforcement, Missouri Highway Patrol, a lot for enforcement. Some training schools were actually there. A couple of big fleets were there. And then just, I guess, I hate to use the word bureaucrats, but I don't know what to say. Just some government employees and bureaucrats and stuff from the different departments at DOT and driver training and different stuff like that.
And, of course, for our viewers, listeners who don't know, we're located in Missouri. And OIDA has a pretty good relationship with the Missouri DOT, right?
Yeah, and it's gotten a lot better thanks to Heather Lubert. She's kind of over the safety. I don't know exactly her next title, but like the safety messaging and the boards and the stuff that you see out on the highway, she's kind of over that, and then some of the DOT grants and stuff. So Heather actually reached out to us 2 years ago, I think now, and she said, hey, I've worked for MoDOT for all these years, and they promoted me into this position, and I don't know anything about trucks or trucking. And so she said you should talk to Missouri Truck, and she was reaching out to us. And to her credit, and I think it's good that she realized that what you know, you're a smart person if you don't know what you don't know. And she realized that, and she's came to our Truck to Success course and watched that. And she's been out here and talked to our board of directors, and she's had me involved in some things and some other people around here at OIDA. So, yeah, she's reached out, and that's good, and for members and drivers and stuff. So kind of learning about trucking, and she tries to run things by us before they do it just to see what we think. So, hey, that's great.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Who all spoke at this event?
There was a different amount of people. There was FMCSA, the people from the training schools. Miss Heather that I talked about spoke. Some of the training people and enforcement spoke. The head of FMCSA Drug Consortium came and spoke. So, and there were some people there about federal grants and stuff like that. It was a little bit of everything, but pretty much the whole idea of this was 2 days was to try to bring everybody from the commercial vehicle sector, both government and private, together so we could all talk about the improved safety of the highways in the state of Missouri.
And what was your role doing there and the ones who did go from OOIDA?
We were there. I mean, it was very open forum, so that was nice. I think there's 40 or 50 people there, and they, like, when the person would present, you were allowed to ask questions or give feedback, and there was just times they had sort of an open dialogue, because there was a couple just open, I don't know what they, just open session. They would bring up a topic, and just everybody who wanted to could talk. So, of course, we were there representing small business truckers and professional drivers, so that was kind of our take on it and what we spoke on.
Now, I know several topics were covered at this event. I want to go through a few of those. The first one was on problem identification and crash data. What was talked about during that?
Well, mainly they tried to get down into what's causing the accidents. And, of course, they put the charts up of how many accidents, truck accidents and stuff are in the state of Missouri. Because, again, this is pretty much all Missouri. They did have some federal facts there, which kind of align. But trying to drill down into what crash causations are and stuff like that. The problem is, as we all know, and it was echoed there as well, is there's just not good record keeping of that. For one, the way this town and the way this municipality does a crash and the way this one does is completely different. What this state does is different. And so that's one problem. I mean, the feds need to come up with a set standard. I know CVSA's been working on a crash. They've had a crash committee, I don't know, for probably 7 or 8 years now, I feel like, to come up with a uniform form and how it's filled out and stuff like that. So, unfortunately, a lot of it's left up to the officer or the municipality or the state or the agency, I guess you would say.
Now, driver training and testing was one of the other topics, and I know OIDA talks about that a lot. What was the message during that talk?
It was kind of mixed, and I mean, we went back and forth because there was a lot of talk on truck training, but then we also got into just motorist training just here in Missouri, and I thought that it's appalling to me that if you take the driving test, the written part in Missouri to get your car driver's license, if you flunk it, you can take it twice a day, every day, till you pass it.
That's kind of terrifying to think about.
Yeah. So, I mean, and apparently from the folks who are there in the know in Missouri who oversee this, they said that's pretty much, that happens a lot. They'll have people come for a week or two, and they don't think they even read the book. They just
keep trying.
Just keep trying.
I chose C this time. I'm going for B.
And and I'm assuming, like I haven't taken my hazmat test for a CDL for a long time because I dropped it when I came in here. I mean, I still have my CDL, but I don't have the hazmat part. But it used to be if you got it wrong, I think it would tell you the right answer. So on the computer. Okay. So I suppose after a while, if you get it wrong enough, you kind of get an idea what the test is and stuff like that. But and anyway, and it's funny because that's like in statute or policy. It's like a policy thing. So the one question I asked is, and a lot of people are asking, it seems like that's a policy to be changed. How do we change policy in Missouri? So it doesn't really require a bill or anything, I don't think. So, yeah, we're waiting to kind of hear back on that. But, yeah, that's kind of alarming because, again, going back to the crash stuff, they did say that most of the crashes are caused by cars. And then we get into this car stuff. And it's, but that was probably the biggest alarming thing, that you can do that to get your driver's license here in Missouri. But then they had trucking schools there. They were from technical colleges and stuff, and one private individual's trucking school and stuff. And then there was a big fleet trucking school from South Central Missouri that a lot of people probably have seen, a lease your trucks or some kind of thing like that. But anyway, with that being said, it was very interesting, and it seemed like, in my personal opinion, it just what we heard there as far as the community college and even the private college or the private driving schools there, I think they do probably a better job than the fleets do, which isn't popular. It was surprising when the fleet that was there said in 22 years since they started their school, they've trained 38,000 new drivers. They're a fleet of 8,000. So that's almost five times the amount of drivers that they've trained in 22 years. That's pretty scary, in my opinion. That's not mentioning the people that they've hired that had experience that they didn't have to train. So, yeah. And they made a pretty big to-do that they train their drivers for 50,000 miles. They ride with a trainer for 50,000 miles. And so I asked the question, is the trainer in the passenger seat training, or is it just ran like a team deal? And they did say that for a week or two the trainer's in the seat, but then from then on it's pretty much ran like a team deal.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I don't really consider that training. I don't think most truck drivers do. If you can train sleeping, you're a pretty good trainer, I guess. And if you can learn by osmosis, good for you. So, and that's the only frustrating about stuff like this, because I don't think a lot of the state people who are there listening to this, and it's no offense to them but I don't think they think about things. They just hear, wow, 38,000, they're really doing a good job.
They don't understand the numbers.
Yeah, they don't look at the numbers. And Andrew King, that was with us, of course, works in our foundation, and Andrew's a number guy. So I know it was probably frustrating to Andrew as well, but that frustrates me at times. And I didn't, you could probably call a person out, but that's not the right form, or that's not a forum for something like that to happen.
How good is it to be face-to-face with some of these truck driving schools, to be able to ask them questions and talk with them? Because do we have a lot of relations? Does OIDA have a lot of relations with
Not
schools?
a lot, probably not as many as we'd like to have. We have had in the past, and unfortunately what's has happened in the past is they've kind of asked us to back away because it makes it harder on the recruiters to come, because we kind of arm the students with knowledge, and a lot of times they don't like them to have knowledge. So, but with that being said, it was very interesting. I did get very well acquainted with one gentleman from a school in north central Missouri, and he was a very good guy. He was a trucker for a long time. Him and another lady kind of set this program up through this community college. And he told me there's been quite a few people, he turns them away, doesn't let them. So good for him.
Yeah.
He's a firm believer that not everybody can do this job. So, yeah, and it was good talking to him. We had a really long, in-depth conversation that evening, actually, after the first night of the seminar or get-together or whatever you want to call it.
Now, there was a roundtable discussion about modernization and regulatory changes. How did that go?
It was really not a lot came from that. It was pretty quiet. I don't know. They talked about some of the new licensing, electronic stuff and stuff like that, but there wasn't a whole lot that came out of that stuff. That was the roundtable stuff It was pretty good, some of it, but like I said, the whole modernization thing, they talked a little bit about ABs, and we kind of pushed back on some of the modernization of, using technology to lower your scores and stuff like that. That was talked about a little bit, but it was really pretty shallow, probably, which was a good thing.
Now, I noticed there was a lot of FMCSA people there, which we don't often hear from or have an opportunity to often speak with them. How did that go? Were you able to speak with any of them?
Yeah, it was very nice having them there. We spoke with all of them about certain things. The training was one thing we talked about with them. The Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse gentleman was there. We pointed out some of the problems and issues that our members have been having with the Drug and Alcohol Clearinghouse, as far as like if a carrier doesn't get on there every so often, their profile gets erased and different stuff like that that's happening. We found out that some of these issues aren't really the clearinghouses and FMCSA's fault. It's some stuff that some defensives and cybersecurity stuff that they've put into place, and it's just affected these things this way. And so since it came from higher up, it's taking them a little longer to work through and try to figure out. They are aware there's a problem. In fact, they actually sent us what they're telling. Like they have, if you call FMCSA's hotline for the drug testing consortium, they got some things they tell you to do and try, and they actually sent that to us for our drug consortium. So, because we have consortium members, and members who aren't in our consortium for that fact come in, but this way maybe we can tell them, and hopefully they won't have to call, because my understanding is they have very limited staff at FMCSA to answer these calls, so you can be on the phone for a long time.
How often do these workshops happen, and how important are they for associations like OOIDA to come together and be able to have these discussions?
This one here hasn't happened in like 10 or 12 years or longer, what they said, but they voted or discussed having at least biannually, if not annually. So, yeah, I've been to a couple other, they have like biannually. So, I mean, it seems like this is becoming more of a new trend, which is a good trend. And, I mean, it's very important for OIDA and to be involved, and we try to get members involved as well, but it's very important, to get there, because if we're not there, they don't hear about the small business trucker. There was nobody there talking about small business truckers other than us and what they're going through and their problems.
All right. Louis, thank you so much.
Thank you as always.
That was OIDA's Executive Vice President, Louis Pugh, talking about the Missouri Commercial Motor Vehicle Strategic Workshop that was held recently. For Landline Now, I'm Ashley Blackford. Stay tuned for more after this.
Are you tired of the IRS following you around like a dark cloud? Call 888-557-4020 and get your life back.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. With more durability for more miles and more confidence in your fleet, Firestone's tested tires help fleets save with value where it matters most. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
When it's time to overhaul your truck engine, help protect it by insisting on a genuine Vibratech TVD crankshaft damper. Heavy duty, absolute premium quality, and they're made right here in the USA. Find a dealer at vibratechtvd.com. It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Landline Now, welcome back. Several states are tackling an issue that has hit a number of truckers very hard: predatory towing. One state taking on the issue is Kentucky, where State Senator Jimmy Higdon has introduced a bill that includes a provision to help fix the situation. I spoke with the senator recently about his effort. I wanted to ask about some specific provisions in your bill, SB 107, particularly the section on towing. And I'm wondering if you can just explain, for folks that aren't familiar real quick, what that part of the bill would do if the bill were passed.
Well, and I'm sure Kentucky's not the only state that's experiencing this, where some wrecker services on especially the interstates have pulled in or gone to the scene of an accident, or large trucks broke down, and those companies have received some extremely high bills. We're hearing some in the $30,000 and $40,000 range for just a simple towing from point A to point B, even a short distance. And the insurance companies are, they're kind of, I guess, caught between a rock and a hard spot to pay the towing bill or not. And a lot of them have limits of what they'll pay, so the companies are stuck with the balance. So what this bill does in Kentucky, we have a list. The state police have a list that they call the wrecker services are on a rotating basis, and they call the next one up. What this bill will do, if it requires every towing service to publish their rates, and they have to be available, and they have to be posted. And if a wrecker service doesn't do that or fails to charge what their posted rates are, then the state police will take them off the rotation for 6 months on the first offense, a year. They take them off for a year on the second offense. And that's just a small group of folks. We call them bad actors. We have a lot of legitimate companies in Kentucky, and in fact, in my Senate district, we have Ellis Wrecker Services, and they're extremely professional and do a very good job. And there's a lot of them across the state, but we do have a few that this bill is designed for that have been known in the past to send some rather ridiculous bills to some of the truckers and others that are broke down, across the state.
Do you foresee going a step further? Do you think that this will take care of the problem, or do you foresee legislation that might restrict or regulate those rates as opposed to just simply publishing them?
Well, I guess one step at a time. This is our first bite at the apple. If this doesn't take care of the issue, then we can come back and look at it. But I don't know that we want to regulate rates, but we just want to make sure that they're published and that folks know what they're paying. Not have a simple. And we're primarily talking about trucking or large equipment that's towed and or is in an accident, and a $32,000 bill for we had one report that said they got a bill for $32,000, and they only towed the vehicle for a couple miles to a spot where they could get it off the highway, and they got a bill for $32,000.
I'm curious, what is the status of the bill right now?
Well, it's it, along with some of my other bills, are in the House Appropriations and Revenue, and that is a place where bills go to die sometime. But it has its readings, and we have 4 days of session left, and I'm hoping that that will pass. It's ready to pass, but like I said, it's been there for some time, so I don't know what the outcome will be, but it is in a position right now where it could pass.
Okay. Well, Senator, that's all I have. Is there anything else that you think people need to be aware of about the bill or the towing provisions in it?
Well, like I said, we're talking in this bill primarily truckers and trucking companies, and I'm sure if they have an incident on the highway, the companies or the drivers can make sure they make sure that they find a credible company with Google and that sort of thing. Anymore, you can hopefully that they can find the bad actors. And I guess when you go through the state of Kentucky and you're pulling the load, you don't anticipate a wrecker having to come and get you.
Okay, Senator, thank you very much for your time. I certainly appreciate it.
Well, thank you, and appreciate you reaching out to me.
That was Kentucky State Senator Jimmy Higdon talking about his bill, SB 107, which contains provisions that are designed to combat predatory towing. One of the challenges that truckers face out on the road is that most car drivers have no idea how to share the road with larger vehicles. But some groups are trying to change that, and the key, they say, is education. One group doing its part in that regard is the Florida Trucking Association. I spoke recently with Alex Miller, president and CEO of that group, about what they've been doing. Well, first of all, I wanted to talk about the Share the Road campaign, and I'd like to start broadly. What's the overall purpose of the program?
So our Share the Road campaign has been in effect for 30, 40 years now. It's the real cornerstone of safety, public safety through Florida Trucking Association. The whole purpose is to inform and educate all motorists about how to safely drive around trucks and large buses.
Okay. What are some of the key activities that the association undertakes to get at those goals?
We regularly send our Florida Road Team members out to schools. Those could be driver's ed classes, oftentimes physical education classes. We go out into the public for touch a truck events. We go into social group meetings to really spread the message about how to drive safely.
What are some of the key parts of that message? I mean, you mentioned to spread the message about safely driving around these vehicles, but can you give us some examples of some of the actual messages that you give to these groups when you speak to them?
Sure. So the new part of the campaign is we have just launched public service announcements that will be released through social media. And while it has one larger video that will show in schools, the messaging is separating out into several chapters. So one of them talks about the no zone. It talks how to pass safely, about cutting it close or cutting off trucks who are driving behind you. The stopping distance of trucks, how much you have to stay back so that you still have a line of vision on the road. One of the more important ones recently that we've seen more increased problems with are rail crossings at intersections for drivers to understand that oftentimes trucks will come to a complete stop at rail crossings. We also talk about wide turns and, of course, to be patient, to understand that there are operating limitations, and, of course, to not be distracted when driving.
Okay. You mentioned that part of this is bringing information to driver's education classes, and certainly that's a big issue across the country in terms of training younger drivers before they get into the car. What sorts of information are you giving to those driver's ed classes, and how is that delivered?
Well, they do watch a couple of videos. The road team members go and speak to them and give them examples. But one of the other things that we do that's very effective is we park a large truck in the school parking lot. We will put a car, oftentimes it's Florida Highway Patrol that are also there with us. They will park that car, and each student gets to get into the truck and look in the side mirrors and see that that FHP trooper vehicle has become invisible because it is in that no zone or that blind spot. they really get a sense of seeing what truck drivers experience on the road, so hopefully they change their driving behaviors.
It's interesting. I'm curious if you've been to some of these and witnessed this. What's the reaction of the students when they actually see this?
I actually have been to many of these events. They're really wonderful. The road team members are incredibly engaging and friendly. So it's not only a safety message; it ends up being recruiting for the trucking industry to see what the career could be like. But it's amazing when you see the difference between, say, watching a video on a DVD versus getting out there and being able to put your hands on a truck, really physically experience the size of it, because that does affect students more positively.
Something else, as I understand it, is you've been going to some trucking companies, I assume, to meet with the drivers there. And I'm kind of curious on what you're offering that's above and beyond the training that they're already receiving.
Well, we oftentimes will send some of our road team members to companies to talk about them. But we also really work from the regulatory side of things, where informing them about changes, especially the managers. And so really just encouraging them. A lot of times it's just going in there and with an award to celebrate with the driver and their company for their 1 million mile safety award or 2 million miles, about really acknowledging the hard work and sacrifice that drivers and their families do for the American public.
Another activity you mentioned there that always kind of interests me is the so-called Touch a Truck events. And these are normally events for families, as you know, with the focus on the kids. But in talking with other groups over the years that have put these on, I've heard several of them say that the parents who go to these are just as important to target for the message as the kids. Is that your experience?
You are 100% right. And one of the times I went to this event with some of our drivers, it was a Girl Scout trip. So it was a lot of Girl Scouts in Florida coming to experience the driver simulator and the truck and speaking to drivers. And it not only excited the kids, but it really changed the perspective of the parents. And when you're looking at, say, the next generation of people coming into the trucking industry, your mentors, your parents are often the ones that are going to guide you with those decisions. So it's equally as important to get younger people excited about it, but also the parents of those people.
Well, and I would think, too, I know a lot of parents, when they go to these things, they're afraid to have their kids touch the trucks. Like, this is a dangerous thing. You shouldn't touch it. And I would think that part of it is just getting the parents to understand, that it's just a matter of driving safe rather than that these are dangerous objects.
Right. It humanizes the industry on so many levels of understanding the technological advances when it comes to a truck, but also, really getting up close to it and then meeting drivers. I mean, that's incredibly important to share a message of safety and also tell the story of the trucking industry in general.
I'm curious, do you have an idea about how many people across Florida the various aspects of this program have reached? I mean, what's the scope of this in terms of outreach?
Well, face-to-face, we estimate about 150,000 people over the past few decades through FTA have been educated on this. But with the social media campaign that we're launching for the next several months, that we could really get millions of eyes on it because we're meeting people where they are, and that's on social media. So we are doing media ad buys, and it's going to pop up, and people will hopefully take 10, 20 seconds to watch a video and learn something.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for your time. I certainly appreciate it.
Of course.
That was Alex Miller, President and CEO of the Florida Trucking Association, talking about the group's Share the Road program, which tries to educate people outside and inside the trucking industry about safely sharing the road. We'll be back in just a moment. I'm Mark Rettig, and this is Landline Now.
Capital Reman, your leader in remanufactured diesel engines and components, is celebrating its 10th anniversary. Let us help you avoid costly downtime and repairs by visiting capitalreman.com today. Use code OOIDA10 to receive your member benefits.
Get the most power and performance out of your rig with Howe's Diesel Defender. It provides maximum lubricity and contains specialized IDX4 detergent to clean and prevent deposits and safely removes harmful water. Visit HowesProducts.com for more information.
Attention professional drivers, do you owe money to the IRS? Integrity Tax Relief Group frees drivers from IRS trouble. Call for help now, 855-976-4291. That's 855-976-4291.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com, because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Welcome back to the show. We've told you over the past several weeks about a number of states looking to do something about predatory towing practices. It's an issue OOIDA feels passionately about, and joining the program to talk about the current landscape is Doug Morris. Doug is the association's Director of State Government Affairs. Doug, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for joining us as always. It feels like this issue, predatory towing, it feels like it's been in the headlines quite a bit lately, not for the practice itself, which still happens far too often, as we know, but because of this action on the state level to tamp down on some of these practices. And just to be clear, this is an issue that you still hear a lot from members about, isn't it, Doug?
Yeah, unfortunately, it happens in every state. Most of the states don't have any predatory towing legislation or requirements or things of that nature. So, yeah, obviously, we've tried to educate almost all the states in this and working with other stakeholders in this area and try to get legislation passed in these states so that these predatory problems go away.
Yeah, for sure. And, you mentioned education there, and I think that's really the first step that's key to all of this. And in that vein, OOIDA Executive Vice President Louis Pugh traveled to Jefferson City, Missouri, to the state capitol there, I think last week, to talk to state legislators about this issue in particular. There's a bill in Missouri right now that would really do a number of things to tamp down this practice here. Talk to us a little bit about Louis' trip there and just really how valuable it is for them to hear from somebody like Louis who has experience with this.
Sure. So Representative Dave Griffith out of Jefferson City, Missouri, dropped the bill, Bill 2214, and it's basically has to do with, and this one has to do with abandoned vehicles left on the side of the road and the predatory towing around that. I mean, we've been trying for a number of years in Missouri to get something passed, but we've had it passed the legislatures, and it's gone to the governor and not been signed. So, I mean, this bill is kind of watered down, but we're trying to get something across the line this year. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. I don't know. Depends on the governor, of course. It seems like he has some relations in the towing industry, so it's been hard for us to get anything. But the conversation continues, and next year there'll be a new governor, and hopefully we can get some good legislation across the board that that'll pass and we can get it done. But this particular bill is basically, when a truck is towed, that from an abandoned one, mind you, is towed and to a tow facility or tow yard. This will allow that person to go in there and get their stuff out of the truck. And also they can also file a bond, a 30% bond, or pay 30% of the tow bill to get their, the truck out of the lot. And then that is upon filing a petition in the circuit court. So, I mean, it's a lot to it, but like I said, this continues in Missouri. We will eventually get something that we need or we're real happy with. This just is a kind of a placeholder to move forward in the years to come. Obviously, the towers, there are several tow companies there, and the State Tow Truck Association testified against the bill. For what reason, I don't know. It just it doesn't make sense that they just want to hold these trucks and the stuff inside the trucks hostage until these some of these bills are I've seen just simple tow such a simple tow from the side of the road back to a yard, $15,000. Yeah. And it's just ridiculous. I mean, we had one here in Maryland just last year, a simple tow back to the yard, and the guy wanted $16,000, but he wanted cash. It's like, really? Yeah. So I mean, and this is not the exception. This is the norm in some of these states. You hear some exorbitant bills, or in accident scenes and things like that, in hundreds of thousands of dollars, and this is ridiculous. I mean, so that's why we've really jumped on board trying to get this across the line. In a lot of states, I mean, a lot of states have dropped bills this past year. I think you're going to see some legislation that passes this year in other states as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, and I've seen the lawmakers when you kind of show them these bills and they kind of realize again, astronomical amounts that people are being basically forced to pay to get their equipment back. And you can't help but just kind of raise your eyebrows and think, what are they doing there? I imagine you get some pretty strong reactions from lawmakers when you talk about these things and you show them these bills. I imagine many of them have no idea that this kind of thing goes on every day.
Oh, absolutely not. I mean, we've had legislation that passed last year in Maryland, and we had bills that showed them when they're and they just could not believe it. Oh, this is not the case, is it? And I was like, here's the bill, and here's a lot of times they get negotiated down a little bit, but majority of the time the bill stays as is. I mean, we've seen folks lose their trucks and trailers over these type of tow bills. I mean, they get put out of business. It's sad but true. It just happens out here, and we've seen cases. I remember cases we had a number of years back where the brother-in-law of a sheriff owned a tow company down south, and they towed a nice Peterbilt to his yard. The owner of the truck was going through all the trying to get the money through insurance company and other and money together. Meanwhile, this tow company owner liked the truck so much he went out and fixed it up, painted it, knowing full well that he was going to keep that truck. I mean, we actually had to get the FBI involved in that case, and the owner finally got that truck back, but it took a long while to get it back. But these are practices that's going out here. These people hold these trucks hostage. They know that they got the drivers over a barrel, or a small business company over a barrel, and they're like, "Hey, we got your truck. You pay the bill, or you're not going to get it back."
Yeah, and we mentioned Missouri there, and I know this has been an issue in the Show Me State for quite a while now, and the governor, as we mentioned, has been sort of a roadblock there. But I think it is worth mentioning that we are seeing predatory towing reform bills being signed into law in some states. Florida comes to mind most recently. I know the governor there, Ron DeSantis, did sign a bill into law. I think it goes into effect on July 1st. But we are seeing, as you mentioned there, we are seeing states kind of take this issue up more. Are we seeing momentum on this issue? Do you feel confident that we're going to see more states kind of pick the ball up and run with it?
Yeah, in Florida, that was House Bill 179, and we support that. You're going to see some legislation possibly pass this year in Virginia. That was House Bill 1073 and Senate Bill 94. It's a start there. You have Utah House Bill 204. Which prohibits a tow company from charging towing and storage fees until the tow has been reported to a motor vehicle division. And they also have another bill, Senate Bill 107, which is a large bill. It's 22 pages. It's a transportation bill, but it basically that's in Kentucky, and that has to have rate sheets posted at the state police, get those rate sheets, and they also have that posted at their tow lot, so you know exactly what you're paying for, instead of find out later, that your tow's $15,000,
yeah.
Which
it makes no sense. Yeah, absolutely. It just, I mean, again, any rational person looking at these bills that come out is just going to say, what are we doing here? This is extortion on a number of levels. For sure. This does seem like an issue that lawmakers on both sides of the aisle should get behind, especially with this being an election year. For the people living in the states that you kind of rattled off there, what can and what should they do in these states to help get these bills across the finish line? Yeah, they need to call their legislators. I mean, even if you don't live in that state, just need to call the legislators down there. Go for fightingfortruckers.com, and you can find out who your legislators are or who the legislators are in that state. And then just call them up and say, hey, please support these bills because I'm a small business trucker, and I don't want to see other small business truckers get put out of business for an exorbitant tow bill, which makes no sense. Yeah, and don't be afraid, too. maybe send them a copy of one of these non-consensual tow bills that you've gotten to kind of, again, educate them, because a lot of these folks don't have any idea that this is going on out there. And again, I think once they realize that it is, they should be doing everything that they can to protect the people out there who are keeping the nation moving. Doug, really appreciate your time. Appreciate you working on this issue for everybody out there, because it's an important one, and hopefully we'll see some momentum in the right direction here in the weeks and months to come. We appreciate it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Our thanks to Doug Morris of OOIDA for his time, and our thanks to you for yours. We appreciate you tuning in to Landline Now and hope you will again soon. Until then, take care and drive safe.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad,
a son,
a husband,
wife,
I'm a writer,
photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars, fishing,
my kids,
chrome,
and I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us!
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.